Welcome back.
What's up, man? How you doing?
How you been for the last week? Oh, I guess it's not like I don't talk to you every day.
It's going good. House is coming along. Puppies are getting more obedient every day.
Yeah, dude, I don't know many people that I mean, and I've known a lot of people that have taken on what I call the trifecta.
What's that? House, puppy, baby.
Yep.
I got two puppies too at the same time.
At
So
least the wedding's not mixed in there
the
that I know
wedding's
of.
yeah, the wedding's way out. So we're good until next October. Actually, 1 year from the shoot date here.
Well, I am. I say it every week, but every week we get a little deeper, and I become a little bit more aware, I guess, familiar, which brings clarity. Um, I'm also studying. I got a separate source for really digging into meditating. I really want to nail. I want to. I mean, I feel like I've been going through the motions for 3 or 4 years, and um, I want to really dig into that part of my routine. So I'm going to review real quick. Um, if y'all haven't figured out by now, we are John and I began this process a couple months ago, knowing that we needed to kind of take a pause and then a reboot. And some might feel like that's because there's a problem. No, it's a necessity if we want to go to the next level. Until he and I go to the next level, our business can't go to the next level. One of our partners on the money side always talks about you attract who you are. Well, if you want to attract at a different level, you got to first go to that level yourself. So we began this process and started with the third book in a series. I don't think we knew that at the time. So we took a step back and read the first book in the series and the second book and the third book. And now we're just kind of talking through that. We want to share with you what we got out of it. So it's our interpretation of it, if you will. And you'll be able to see the impact of that as we literally go to the next level. Because we're being very intentional about a subgroup of our team that has also said the timing was right for them to go to the next level. And it's not the right time for everybody, and that's okay. It may not be the right time for you, and that's okay. But eventually, if you want to go to another level, you got to start with this process and doing it yourself. And so I'm going to start by saying we are putting content out there and knowing that it will resonate with some of you because the timing is right. And if it's resonating with you and you feel like a collaborative conversation with us might help you, probably help us, and might be curious to see where that could go, that's what we'd love to do out of sharing the way that we are. If the timing isn't right for you, it doesn't matter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay in the loop, and do everything you can do to learn and apply the stuff that we've learned and are now sharing. I promise you, it will make a huge difference. Last week, we talked about as a leader, and the intent being to be a transformational leader. Again, if you're like minded to us, which are people that want to have an impact on the world, you've got to first identify, create, and clarify your vision, which is the what. John and I have redone that. I'm pretty proud with what we've come up with as our vision. It's just an enhancement. It's not some big wholesale change. Maybe we'll share that here and probably should in the future. But you've also got to give that vision greater context and importance, which is the why for all of your who's and collaborative partners that are involved. This gives all of them all that they need to go about the execution of that vision, which is the how. Moving forward, then the leader, and John amended this a little bit last week. I'll leave it to him to amend it again this week, but that leaves the leader, the visionary leader, to simply support and encourage the process. And how did you enhance that last week?
Yeah, so I think it's that process of continuing to grow as a leader, continuing to transform is we talk about the 80-20, 80% of the stuff that you do that takes up the majority of your time It keeps you away from doing the 20% of the things you could do that produce the 80% of your results. And as you grow, that's constantly changing, because as you become that next level leader, whatever that looks like, as you go from, let's say, from A to B, then the 80% on A is going to be different than the 80% on B. But, and you know what? Now that I think through that and just say that out loud, that's probably what a glass ceiling is. Someone hits a level and then they're like, what they have to do, it's like, and that's where maybe that's where a lot of people feel stuck. It's like you're ready to level up and you're just not doing the work right now needed to
They
get
don't know what the work is.
right. Well, that's why we're sharing this stuff, right? But
Absolutely.
the that 80% is going to continually change and it's going to evolve as you continue to grow and as you continue to evolve. But I think it's and I don't know. I don't know if it's like a yearly thing, a quarterly thing, maybe twice a year. It'll be interesting for us to play through that process and see when is the appropriate time to do that. Maybe it's just whenever you feel quote unquote stuck, but
When you feel like you're hitting that ceiling.
in that ceiling, then that might be an indicator for you to go back and look at, okay, well, maybe it's time for me to reevaluate what my 80% is right now. And that growth or transformation comes from letting go of that 80%, putting a who in place to take care of the 80% for you. So now you can focus on that 20%, and then you'll eventually grow, and that 20% um, will expand into a new 100% of your time, and then there'll be a new 80%, and then so on and so forth, right? It just continues to evolve, grow
So
on
you're clear on 80 and 20.
80, 20,
But the
100.
20 is also what your unique skill set and abilities are. And the closer you get to doing nothing but focusing on that, the more efficient, effective, and fulfilled you'll be. But I know you're busy. That's the 80%. And that's where who's come in, or just stuff that shouldn't be wasting your time anyway. So the perfect example of that is Lord of the Rings. Not going to dig into that because we talked about it last week. But if you think about it, Frodo had a vision and he enlisted the Fellowship, which were his who's. He had one who in particular in that group, and he couldn't have saved Middle Earth without the help of his friends. So that's a perfect example. I know it's kind of a cheesy one, but it's a good one. So where everyone on your team is an equal partner, equally, now they have different skill sets, they even have different objectives, but they're an equal partner from a collaboration perspective. And they're equally committed to collaborating and consistent improvement. If you've got who's that aren't learning collaborative partners, that's going to end up being a challenge. And so they're committed to that constant improvement. And my goodness, the heights that you can scale when that begins to really gel. And listen, it's going to take time. All of this takes time. It takes time for you to even figure out what we're talking about, but then to start applying it, and you'll just get. But it's like anything else; it's a skill set. It's not a talent. You're going to get better and better and better at it. Now, far too many leaders, and I think John really likes this example. I do too. Far too many leaders are playing checkers. They're in their own way. That self-imposed glass ceiling. They're in their own way of either being the how, because nobody can do it better, or thinking about how, which slows or even blocks their own personal growth and expansion, thus the growth and expansion of their business and ultimately their purpose. Any thoughts?
Well, I think we hammered the chess and checkers.
We are reviewing.
Yeah, so this is the review, but the easiest way is just like there's just so much you could do with chess pieces versus checker pieces, and the correlation is linear versus exponential and abundant thinking, right? You're moving one space at a time, and I think where a lot of people get stuck too, is it's like, I want to make $1 million a year. If you're making $100,000 a year, and then your mind to go from 1 million to or 100 to 1 million,
it's too big a leap.
10 times the work.
Well, that too.
Right? That's what people think. Linearly, it's like, well, I got to work 10 times harder. It's like, oh, I'm already working 60 hours a week or 80 hours a week. Why the hell would anyone want to do that? Right. Well, again, moving away from the how and to who can help me grow a business that way. Who can I partner with? Who can I scale with? Who can bring resources and tools, technology, all those things to the table. Relationships, I think, are the most important thing, right? Having the right relationships and the right people around you, proximity to the right who's, but who can help you get to a million way faster than how.
Wait, if you can even get there, how can you even get there? How? I don't know, that's a circle too. But ultimately, when your world becomes one that is full of collaborators, of learners, and not competitors, everything changes. Everything becomes more likely, bigger, faster, even easier. To
Yeah.
sum up John's point as well. So, all of that to say, what is this going to get me? And there's 4 levels of freedom, and we're going to dive into the first one today. We're not even going to get through it all the way, but the first one is freedom of time, and it's critical because it's the building block for all of the others. And collaborating creates abundance, like John just actually alluded to, and expansion, beginning with, because it has to begin with you. You've got to have the time to do some of this work. And trying to figure out how, like John said, is linear thinking, and it costs you time, costs you money, costs you efficiencies. But by asking who, by simply getting help, and again, we alluded to earlier that we've been conditioned not to ask for help. Well, that's a self-imposed ceiling for many of you. So asking who is nonlinear and can be instantaneous and exponential in its outcome. I mean, John, you got an example of that with marketing. It was instantaneous, wasn't it?
Pretty much. And right now I'm working on another who to help me get to the next level of that. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get into super specifics on it. The short,
The short.
right? The short is I basically tried to figure out how to do something for many months, produce minimal results. And when I shifted my thinking away from like, how can I make this better, or how can I improve this, or how can I do anything with this, to who can help me make this better, they like instantly showed up and they stepped in, and they've essentially produced like almost the same amount of results I did in a few weeks, where I was like trying to figure out by myself for like a few months.
And so that's pretty instantaneous. We don't mean like that, but I mean, in business, a few weeks is pretty instantaneous, and it will be exponential. We have no doubt. And that will take a little bit of time too, but that we understand. Time is not fixed, but flexible. It's not finite, but infinite. And it's a freedom, consequently, that can always be improved upon. As John said earlier, you're going to go through stages and levels to where you just keep focusing on the next 20%, honing your unique skill, giving yourself more time, ultimately to be more efficient and effective, but to also have more recovery and relaxation, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But because freedom of time is also a function of always improving the quality of your activities, it makes sense that the more time you have, the better you'll become at the activities you're pursuing. Now, this is rhetorical, obviously, to all of you, but John, even to you. But I want y'all to think about what are the types of things that freedom of time would afford you. I know John would be softball and golf, probably golf and softball in that order. But he's about to have a kid, so that his whole perspective is about to change on that too. But what would you do? Write a book? Could you foster children, travel, play music at the local venue without worrying about it being a paid gig? What could freedom of time afford you in your ideal lifestyle? And serving others in a capacity that wouldn't be possible if you were trying to figure out how to do everything, because nobody can do it better, rather than asking for help from the appropriate who. You'd be able to serve a lot more people in a much more impactful capacity. Yes.
I'm gonna interrupt if that's okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Thought popped into my head. Because we talk big, massive, hairy, audacious goals, right? I know that eye popping, right? thousands of agents, right, that we're helping, thousands of reps that we're supporting, potentially tens
And
of
thousands of families that we're impacting.
yeah, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, right, of families that we can help over time. And maybe someone is listening to this and they're like, I don't have goals that big, right? Or goals that big don't appeal to them. But even so, thinking very, very, I don't want to say very small, differently, just imagine having more time to do the thing you want to do, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to then use that time to then scale to a whole new level or build a multi-billion dollar company, but just more time with family, more time to do the things that you want to do, the things that you're passionate about. Um, I think at a very basic level, time freedom could be powerful for anybody, no matter where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, at the same time, though, we got to be candid, right? This is the red pill. And to do all those things, the second freedom is what?
Money.
Money. And we're in a world, the reality is all that freedom has to be paid for. So, but to still back up John as far as how big our goals are, it's your ideal lifestyle, whatever that may be. It may not be $1 million a year in passive income. It may be 100. That's not what's important, but it's understanding that there is a relationship still that requires resources to having a freedom of time. So is it worth it? Well, that depends. If your time has become everything to you, then it's not only worth it, but it's necessary. And frankly, most of us have already started at some level. We all have who's around us now, and are probably already leveraging them in some way as employees, kids in the neighborhood, collaborative partners. So those who's no doubt allow you some free time already to do some things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do were they not doing the things they're doing to help you. I'm pausing to give you a chance.
Well, the different types of who's, I think, and then I think we're most people are going to go to right away is business, right? Because we're talking about, and um, getting more time freedom there to then work on more stuff. But you probably have who's around you already, to your point, that are already helping you do a lot of those things, or helping take a lot of that stuff off your plate. That might not be the best use of your time right now. I think like what's a good example? You said kids. It's funny when you said kids in the neighborhood. The first thing that popped in my head was like cutting grass. Uh,
Oh,
now
shovel the driveway.
I like cutting grass, and I ain't letting a kid f up my lawn. So so I know, right? Who not how, but things like that again, and it doesn't matter at what level you're thinking in this capacity. Just shifting your mindset and starting to think um, in this way will start to free up like more of that time for you to do the things that you.
Well, but there are some things with more free time that you need to do to be more effective. And so, but we'll get to that here in a second. So now at the same time, to the who's in your life, you're likely a who to others too. And you're providing them some sort of support, service, or connection. So can you think of any who's already in your, this another rhetorical part. Can you think of any who's that are already in your life? And what would your life be like without them in it? What would their life be without you in it? And then just imagine scaling that. More who's doing more things, you being a more impactful who to the people that you're being an impactful who to. So imagine how much more quality time you would have, as John was alluding to, if you expanded on and added to the number of who's in your life and in your business. How much bigger would the possibilities be? And I said something earlier about writing books, playing music. It's not just about work. How much bigger would your possibilities be about a charity you could start like Shane did, or fostering kids? If you had more and better who's to help you with the things that aren't serving your time in the way that is representative of the value you place on your time. And consequently, the additional time those who's afforded you for the things that they do, for the things that you want to do. And that then gets into purpose, which is the last freedom that we'll talk about. So, who, not how is about leveraging relationships, investing in people, and being transformed by the experience. It's a pretty powerful statement. And I think deeper than what, and I think you're trying to take it deeper than perhaps we've talked about so far. So as important as who, not how is, I don't like this question, but I sum it up good later. How do you avoid the how trap? Oh boy. I know we're going to get comments about that. Any thoughts? Before I dive into that?
No, not specifically on the question. I'm going to let you
Okay.
to dive into that one. But you know, just what keeps replaying in my mind is just the, and it's I'm hesitant to use the word immediate because I think that's kind of, that might be like a red ball word to some people. Like when you say immediate, I think of like the cheesy like infomercials, like you know, instant results or immediate this or immediate that. But it truly is. It's kind of like just making a decision. You know, when you make a decision to then move forward or like start thinking in a different way or start taking different actions or start moving in a direction, you basically like cut off everything else that isn't that. And it's a, I'm going to use immediate, even though I don't want to use immediate, but it literally is an immediate shift in your mindset. And for me, it didn't actually sink in until that first who showed up or result showed up for me. Because it's very, for me, it was very conceptual in the beginning, like it is when
Which
you're,
is interesting because we have a lot of who's already around us.
we do,
Yeah.
right? We do have a lot of good who's around us. But when that, like the example I gave earlier, when that happened, that's when I was like, holy shit, like this literally can just start changing everything. Like I said, just in a matter of weeks. It's already at a whole nother level. So the mindset is a decision. Knowledge is information that will help you change situations, specifically your situation, if you act upon that knowledge. And if you're like me, then the first time that result shows up, it'll like explode it'll explode what you think is possible, and that's when it really gets fun and exciting. And I think that's what I'm eager for the next two, the next two to show up, so we can have, and we think, and what's more interesting now is like we can identify them faster, right? Like we're doing
Well,
work
that's the
now,
practice part. That's the execution part. That's the
right?
creating a habit part.
Right, and we're starting to now identify people through paying more attention to their behaviors and the follow through and them doing what they say they're going to do. And you know, looking at the filter like, okay, I can be a who to this person, but they can be a who to me as well. How do we who it up together and explode something? So it's all exciting, it's all fun, and like I said, I'm anxious for the next who to show up. Like every day, that's when I wake up now. It's like, okay, we're going to find another who today that's going to help us go to the next level.
Well, and I'm going to bring it back now. The reason you're excited because I know your long-term goals, because eventually it's going to lead to a bunch of golf getting played because of all the time you have. So here's the flip side of everything that John just said: taking time for granted. So this is a quote: "You live as if you were destined to live forever. No thought of your frailty ever enters your head. Of how much time has already gone by, you take no heed. You squander time as if you drew from a full and abundant supply, though all the while that day which you bestow on some person, thing, or activity is perhaps your last." Let that resonate a little bit. Because with my health challenges and Not going to get into it. Everybody has them. John's even dealing with a little bit himself. But the precursor of this for me was a real reality check on time, because I had a health challenge that, you know, perhaps might have been my last. Here's the interesting thing. Research shows that only 16% of creative insight happens while you're engaged in work. Instead, your best ideas generally come while you're engaged in downtime or recreational activities. And John, you've heard me say, riding my bike was always an extension of meditating. Now I'm not getting that done for health reasons, but at the gym, because I got a lot of time on the bike, I really didn't use the gym that way. But now I'm finding myself, you know, coming up with things, epiphanies, if you will, at the gym while working out, and not really thinking about any of the work related stuff. So downtime, recreational, like, it's all very, very, very important. We all need that time and space. And most important in that time and space is relaxation and recovery to allow ideas and solutions to ferment and form. Thoughts on that?
Oh, man, I was hoping you would ask. No, so there's a quote by Dan Sullivan, one of our a mentor that we're getting closer and closer to. But he said, in order to be 100% engaged in something, you also have to be 100% unplugged at times. And I think that goes right along with that. Me too, right? It's like, and you hear people say it all the time. It's like, oh, I was in the shower and then I had this amazing idea, right? Or I'm doing something completely different, but because of the way our brains work and they're constantly solving problems that we give it, are you giving your brain good problems to solve or not?
And time to solve them.
Right, and time to solve them. And I also think that's where a lot of people get, again, I'm gonna use the word stuck again, because I think that's what most people correlate to. If you're just constantly going, you're literally not giving yourself time to, I like the ferment word, right? Because that's it sounds stinky to me, but sometimes some of those thoughts you gotta let the juices cook, right? And you gotta let them ferment over time for them to really reach that peak level or that peak stage. And to your point, downtime, that's the best time to let those ideas come to life.
And then collaborate.
Because there's
Take that hour for.
And if you think about it, it's like the same thing with, like, you talk about like multitasking. Like, you can do multiple things at once, but your brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So when you're multitasking, you're literally, you know, if you're doing three things at once, 33%, 33%, 33%, and then your brain just keeps trickling in between all of them. That's how people miss things or aren't as effective as they can be. Getting to that 100% focus. And you go back to meditation. That's a practice and focus. Dude, we could probably spend a whole day talking about meditation
and we might. Right now we're talking about time. And so
bring it back.
The importance of that, as John said, of that downtime is this. You are the first two. In anything that you're going to achieve, pursue the purpose in your life, you're the first two. Got to take care of you. So you must value yourself, improve yourself, and ensure you are in optimal form. Can't do that without the downtime. Happy, creative, connected to the most important relationships in your life. And imagine the time to do that. I mean, I don't know how many marriages would be saved, or parent-child relationships would be improved, and even the kids would benefit from that additional time, and which I think time to them is love, and they need more love. So that's just how important it is. So how do you avoid the how trap? You ready for me to answer that question? It's still about who. Think about this. Imagine. I like that word. I want people to imagine. Imagine having a self-managing company of capable collaborative partners, better than you actually, and you and you. You work less but accomplish more. In a self-managing company, your who's manage themselves. They aren't managed by you. You've given them full ownership over executing and achieving the vision in whatever way suits them. And if done correctly, they have their own ideal lifestyle and quality of life that they're pursuing, and connect how they can do that in the collaborative relationship and vision that you have or that they have with you. So when your team operates seamlessly without you, which is our dream, which is it's the ultimate dream of every entrepreneur. You have the freedom to relax, recover, play, or whatever you want, whenever you want, which is critical for your optimal creativity, success, and longevity in whatever endeavor you're pursuing. In this environment, your team will thrive also because you are more focused, energized, and excited. Exponential growth becomes possible, even likely. And everyone feels like they are part of something very special, bigger than themselves, and they feed off of one another's energy and spirit. Creating this environment, this culture, it's priceless and therefore incredibly rewarding. It's completely available to each and every one of you if you'll just get serious about the value of your time. Wrap it up.
Well, I'm going to summarize. So you're saying it's possible for me to
And
have,
likely.
well, likely because, yeah, so it's possible. I want to speak to someone that might just be hearing this conversation for the first time. So you're saying it's possible as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a team leader, as whatever, to actually work less and get more, to step away from your business and have it produce more or grow more, to actually being less of a resource to your team, but that's an empowerment for them so that they can grow and they can expand and they can get better while you're resting or recharging. And to have a company or a business or a team that will just continue to learn and grow and expand on itself, so that if you get hit by a bus, if you get sick, if you want to take a season off. I heard once, like, regular people go on vacation for a week, wealthy people go on vacation for a season. We can do all these things. Imagine being able to do all these things and your company doesn't miss a beat, but in fact, it gets better, it gets stronger. And every time you do that, rest, recharge, you come back and there's more opportunity on the table.
I'm going to be even more direct than that.
Is that what you said? I want to make
I'm
sure.
going to be even more direct than that. Ultimately, if you're like-minded to us, and if this is resonating with you, here's the goal you have. The ideal lifestyle is getting paid to do nothing.
So I don't know how much better it gets than that. And here's what I'll wrap up with. If you stayed till the end, that means you probably like something. So like the video. If you listen to this and it resonates with you, and you can think of 1 or 2 or 10, 20 people that would also benefit from this information, share it with them. Lastly, subscribe so that you can get notified and stay in touch and stay on top of the conversation. Because we're just going to keep going deeper and deeper on this. We're going to keep peeling back the onion. We're going to keep giving you more nuggets, more perspective on how you can achieve that ideal lifestyle with the self-managing company and get paid to do nothing.
And so, if any of this has resonated with you, we would like to be a who to you. Let's have a collaborative conversation and see if we can't be a who to one another.